You're the guy people call when they need a helping hand, moving furniture, unloading a truck. But lately, your shoulder's been acting up, and you're the one who's calling for help. And that's the moment you realize you can no longer shoulder the load.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care with a range of surgical and non-surgical treatments. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This Podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This Podcast, episode 727. The weight will come off when you do this.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This Podcast with Amanda Valentine.
Hey, homies. Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This Podcast. I am Amanda Valentine. If you are brand new here, thank you so much for checking out this podcast. A little backstory about me. I have been unhealthy for a good portion of my life, both physically and mentally. Obese since about 6 years old or so. Yo-yo dieted for well over a decade, and then spend the last 10 years, I'm almost at my 10-year anniversary of starting my New Year's resolution to make the best decision possible in every moment. Losing over 100 pounds, doing some amazing things with my life I never would have thought imaginable without a healthy mindset. And now I'm a certified personal trainer, nutritionist, etc. And I want to talk about weight for a second. And I think that's something that people chat with me about because I have been so open about weight loss and discussing my own weight loss and how losing weight has changed my life. But I think it's a lot more than just the weight. It's the mindset that has completely changed my life. And the weight kind of came off with the mindset, which brings me to the topic I wanted to discuss, is the weight will fall off when this thing happens. Or when you do this. And I think it's when you change your mindset and you just start making healthy choices and not having the end goal constantly just be the scale and the weight, and using the scale and your weight as a tool, as information along your journey, but not making it the end all be all. And I will say I've gone through so many different phases of life and my own struggles with weight and the scale and levels of importance. And, I've been doing a lot more speaking engagements recently and getting booked for more speaking engagements as the world is changing through COVID. And the more and more I'm discussing this, it's not just a weight focused thing for me. And I think that the 100 pounds and the weight has come off of me, including weight that I gained last year in COVID and have lost in the past year. It's come because I'm treating myself better. The mindset that I have of I just want to have healthier choices. And I think that's one of the main keys. What happened to me at the very beginning of my weight loss journey was I had done all these diets before. I've done a million of them and would lose and gain and lose and gain. And I talk so much on this podcast, if you've been here a while, about your why. And, my why was always just be skinny. You have to be a smaller person. You're not worthy in this body. And then I would, do the whole binge purge thing of like, I got to be so on top of it and so on my game. And then the moment I wasn't is I just skidded off into oblivion. And then that weight came back because my head wasn't in the right place. I wasn't treating myself well. I wasn't finding myself worthy in that body, which I am struggling with still, of self-worth. I am discussing that with my therapist as we speak and reading books about trying to really deeply love myself and find worth and value in my body, in my mind, and everything else. And for me, that has always been a struggle. But I think that the healthier lifestyle and the weight came off when I had the mindset of, this just isn't the life I wanted to live. And if you've been here a while, you've heard me repeat this a million times, that I was just binge eating to the point of pain every single night. I was secret eating. I just hated myself. I hated my life. I wasn't doing anything that felt like me. To me, in my definition, didn't feel like I was living. And so that's what made the change for me of like, well, then what is life? And what do I want to do? I lived in Colorado at the time, and I would like to go outside and see the mountains and go for walks. And so I started doing that and feeling more and more energy as I was making better choices for myself. Those smaller choices of like, hey, I know that, crushing Red Bulls all day isn't really doing me any favors. So we got to back that out, add at least some water into my life, add some vegetables, add some more nutrient dense foods that are fueling my body, that give me more energy, that make me want to do more of the things that feel like living for me. And at the time, it wasn't just so hardcore of like, oh my God, you have all this weight to lose. It was, I want to live this life that feels more like me, and making choices that make me feel good about myself mentally and physically. And when I was doing those choices is when the weight started coming off, which made me feel so incredibly empowered of like, if I can do this and I can do this on my own, what else can I do? And that's when, I started running and did Couch to 5K, and I ran a 5K and then a 10K and then a half marathon and all of those things. And I was using the scale as a marker and a tool of losing weight. And at that time, but it wasn't so much of like, this weight has to come off. It's like, I'm feeling good. I want to do more of these things. And the weight kind of naturally comes off, I think, when you're doing things that serve you. And it's hard to get into that mindset, especially when you're in your rut, in your routine, in the circle of people you're around, whether it's coworkers or family or friends. It's hard to kind of break those ties and to really kind of sit back and be self-aware, which I'm such a huge proponent of being self-aware of, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I want to work on? What is the life I want to live? What is my why? What am I doing this for? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up in the world? And then when you kind of make that decision, you can start making some choices that kind of lead you there. Like, I just want to feel strong. I want to feel like a badass. And when you want to feel like a badass, you want to do some like heavy lifting at the gym or whatever. You want to do some exercise or go for a run or do anything that makes you feel like a badass. And then you realize, well, I got to fuel my body in order to do these badass moves. If I want to deadlift my own body weight, well, I'm going to need to eat nutritious foods that get me in the right space so I can lift that weight. I want to, have my mind in the right place. I want to do some meditation. I want to focus on me so I believe in myself enough that I can lift that weight and feel like the strong, bad bitch that I am. You know what I mean? So I feel like it all kind of just begins with your mindset and what you want, and nobody can tell you what that is except for you. I mean, your doctor can give you great advice, your family, friends, coworkers, etc. But ultimately, it's what do you want? What's the life you want to live? What are the things that you want to do? For me, I really wanted to get into hiking and explore the world and travel and feel comfortable in my own body. And working in radio so long, I just wanted to feel like very confident in like showing up and knowing people were going to take my pictures, and I had to be on social media and everything else. And I didn't want to hide from that anymore. It felt like it didn't feel like I was doing my best. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to feel good doing those things. And so I started making changes to make those things, I was able to do them in my life, if that makes sense. With that being said, absolutely, you might need some help along the way. I for sure did, and I still do. I have a team of people helping me out in different ways, especially as we go through this traumatic time of COVID and everything else and figuring everything out. So it's one of those things of like knowing what you want. What do you want out of this life? Making those healthier decisions for yourself, and then whatever those goals are, like that, if you're worried about what your weight is, about what your body looks like, some of those things will kind of just start falling into place as you're doing things that serve your mental health. You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, I just want to feel more energetic, I just want to feel good, then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to drink some more water. I'm going to maybe eat a little bit foods that fuel me a little bit more sometimes. And maybe I'm going to go for a walk and move my body in some ways that I really enjoy. And doing those things, and then you kind of like feel that more energy, and you're like, oh, and then you start feeling good. And then you start doing those things more and more, finding new things to do. And all of a sudden that your body is reflecting the internal change. At least that's definitely how I feel in the past year. When working with my health coach, Sarah, which you can find in the show notes, it's teamfitwithme.com/poundthis. I was just struggle busing so hard last year, falling back into really old bad patterns of using food to numb out, being diagnosed as depressed and going on antidepressants. And it was a lot for me in 2020, like it was for a lot of people in my own ways. And we all struggled for different reasons. And, just having somebody that I could reach out to and be like, oh, listen, man, I need some help right now. And how much I struggled with that because I had made this my full-time job to be a full-time health coach and personal trainer and do this podcast and to be like, I should have all the answers. I should be able to figure this out. I figured this out on my own for like 9 years. Like, you know, oh my God, like what a loser you are. And all these stories I was telling myself of how much I sucked because I'm like, well, why can't you put it together? This is your job now. This is the time it's most important. And to be like, no, well, I need help right now. And that's the best decision I could make for myself. And I reached out, and as have someone to lean on, as I'm kind of working on my mental health through therapy, I listen to podcasts, reading a lot of books, just trying to really work on my mental health. I feel like when you see pictures that I post over the past year on my Instagram page at You Compound This of how my body composition has changed, I think that's a reflection of the inner work I'm doing, of I'm treating myself better. I'm giving myself more grace. Not to say I don't struggle bus really hard. I mean, I already cried this morning. But, you know, I feel like the outside or my body is a reflection that I'm doing these good things for myself, that I am trying to really focus on some things that make me feel good physically and mentally. And by doing those things, my body composition is changing as a reflection of the internal work. And also a ton of help from Sarah. And I mean, with Sarah, I do check-ins every Friday, but you know, I use her whenever I need her, if I need to reach out. But you know, it's just nice to know you have somebody in a support system. And that was part of the work for me too, is I'm so much the person like, I can do this on my own. I don't need any help. I don't need anybody, which I'm working on in therapy. And to realize, yeah, I need help and I can ask for help and it's okay, gave me a mental break. It was like, and I think that helps me with my internal work, which will help on the external work. So again, I think that when you're kind of making these moves and you're working on yourself in those ways, the other goals that you have will kind of start falling into place into some sort of way. Because I think if you're just telling yourself, I'm not good enough, this body is gross, this body is unworthy, you have to be smaller, you have to lose weight to feel good, that's ultimately going to not lead you to a good place. But if you're telling yourself like, you know what, my life is worthy and this body is worthy and I need to do things to take care of me, and not because I have to, or not because I have to look a certain way, because you want to feel good mentally and physically, and start making those changes. And it won't happen overnight. It's not the 60 pounds in 6 months thing or whatever. And I've done that before. I've literally lost 60 pounds in 6 months and then gained it all back and then some. That's real fun. It's going to go a lot slower, but it's lifetime changes. Those are changes that I made New Year's 2012, almost exactly a decade ago. And here I am living this life where health and fitness and mental health and everything is so deeply important to me. And it is a giant value in my life where it wasn't before, because I wanted to have those experiences in life, and I have. I can't even tell you how amazing it is that I've summited mountains and I've run half marathons. I started my own business. Like, oh my God, like none of these things would be possible if I didn't shift my mindset to be like, I'm worthy of this. I can do this, instead of like, well, that's not me. I'm not that person. Oh, I'll never have that. Or I can't have that until I lose the weight. And that's a dangerous game to play too, that I've played a lot. Like, well, I can do that once I look this certain way, then that's possible for me. Hell no, it's possible for you now. You know what I mean? I'm like, don't be waiting to live your life based on what your pant size is or what the scale tells you. When you start living your life the way you want to and showing up for yourself, those things will kind of fall into place. And again, it is extremely hard to do it on your own, and why it's super important to ask for help in whatever ways you can, which is one of the main reasons I started this podcast. Is I did so much of that on my own, and it's lonely and it's hard. And I wanted to give some resources, whether that's from other amazing people in this space or from myself and my own journey. So I just want to say, especially as we're kind of going into the holiday season, which we'll go into New Year's resolution season, and we go into massive marketing about, dieting and, weight loss for New Year's resolutions. I challenge you to kind of go into this time of year into thinking of like, how do I want to live my life and how can I show up for myself? As we've been shown over the past almost 2 years now, life is incredibly short and it moves incredibly fast. And we only got this one life as far as we know. So are you living it the way that you want to? And being in the healthiest version of yourself mentally and physically, can you live your life to the best of your abilities? Are you able to accomplish the things that you want to? I can look back at my life if my life ended today, I can honestly say I am very incredibly proud of myself. Man, I didn't think that was going to make me cry. But I am. I've done some really big things that I'm proud of. And I've done things that I'm proud of too before, I made healthier choices for myself. But man, the past 10 years, I've met so many incredible people and heard so many incredible stories and done so many awesome things that I never thought were possible in my life, backpacking across a glacier in the Canadian Rockies and running so many races and just being able to speak to people. Last week I was asked to go to P&G or Procter & Gamble here in Cincinnati and speak about my own journey and where I think health and wellness is going in business and in the culture of things, and of like, oh my God, like I got asked to do that? Me? Like, that's just crazy to me. Like, that's just something that I never would have predicted for my life that I think is really cool. And yeah. And so if I died today, I'd be like, well, I spent the last 10 years really living the life I wanted to live. Not to say there aren't really hard moments and it really sucks. But yeah, I feel like I showed up for myself a lot, and I feel strong and I feel able and capable, and I don't know, it's just opened up a whole different world for me, which is why I do this, is not to tell people that your body needs to be different or you have to be different in any way. But, if you want to be able to live your best life and I can help you in some sort of way achieve that, whatever that means to you, man, it is so worth it. And I would love to help with that. So this is really a message of just, loving yourself and loving your life. And I think that's really important. And everything else will kind of fall into place when you're doing those things. You know what I mean? And maybe when you're doing those things, you don't even care about your weight anymore because you're living your life, you're feeling good. It's not the utmost importance. And that's where I'm at right now, of like, I can hop on the scale and it is not the smallest number I've ever seen. And that's okay. That's fine. And there's times in my life where that wasn't okay. And I told myself that was me failing and I'm no good. And I've worked through that, and it's not about that number. That number doesn't dictate my life. You know what I mean? I'm living a great life, no matter what size pants I'm putting on. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that's helpful. Of course, if you ever have any questions or I can help in some way or direct you to somebody that can help, you can always email me, Amanda@AmandaValentineBites.com. If you're in Cincinnati and you're interested in a personal trainer, I am accepting new clients at Cincy 360 Fitness. Again, shoot me an email for that. If you're looking for an amazing health coach to help you learn about macros and nutrition, or you're dealing with some issues, hormonal issues with your weight, Sarah is fantastic. She has an amazing team. Again, if you go into the show notes, it's teamfitwithme.com/poundthis. And if you need anybody else, a therapist, a physical therapist, doctors, dietitians, other personal trainers, I've met so many people and would love to help you with those resources if you need them. If you're looking for an adventure to go hike across a glacier, my friend Nikki at Explorer Chick. Like, I've got, again, like, just how many amazing people that I've met because I chose to start living my life the way I wanted to live it. And this is the way I want to live it. at least most days. So again, thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. I have been struggling with work-life balance, and I know I used to do this podcast 5 days a week. Now, lately, I've been doing once or twice, and I've been working through that of what feels good and how I can better serve. And I don't want to do things just because I feel like I'm forced to, because that doesn't feel authentic to me. So I'm kind of working through my own things with that and where I'm going, and feeling out, again, of reevaluating of what do I want my life to be, what best serves me mentally and physically, and how do I move forward. So it's a constant, and it's a journey. So I'm still living that journey, and I'm doing the best that I can. And I appreciate you joining me on that journey. So that's it. I'm at work, so I should probably get myself together because I'm training somebody in 15 minutes. And I'll be like, sorry, I was just crying by myself in the podcast studio in the basement of the gym. Oh my God. Anywho, talk to you later. Bye.
AmandaValentineBites.com